Dear girl in Afghanistan, you're like a beautiful flowers. Learn, enjoy life. Everything is in your hands. Every soul is with you. The power and capacity you have is amazing. My sisterhood is with you.
Hello, listeners. According to Islam, getting an education is obligatory. The whole world encouraged gaining knowledge except Afghanistan. Afghanistan government trying to hide the oppression towards women. It's very clear that women is being oppressed. As an Afghan citizen, I can testify that our sisters in Afghanistan are not given their rights. All humans deserve knowledge, why not them?
You are listening to the newcomer students at Ignacio Valley High School in California, who are learning English and hail from Afghanistan, Pakistan, El Salvador, Mexico, Guatemala, Nicaragua, Spain, Vietnam, and Russia. I'm Samantha Hopper, and I am their teacher. As the first high school class in the Women Forward International Internship Program, we have been studying alongside the Georgetown and Lynn University teams. Through our project, my students send their messages to Afghanistan as we remember we are all part of one human family.
Dear brave girls in Afghanistan, everyone has their bad times at the same point in life. Things don't go well or the way we want. Sometimes we see heartbreak in any case. We should not stop. We have to stay strong and never give up. If you cannot go to school, that doesn't mean you lose all your dreams and you cannot achieve them. You have to take the risk of failure to keep moving forward.
It is important to change the rules and allow us all to be free.
The oppression towards women is very real, even though some people try to hide it. In a time where women are dominating the world with their knowledge, the girls in Afghanistan are refused their right to learn. Some people try to hide this, but the women of Afghanistan themselves testify to the fact that they can't go to schools and are being oppressed. The government of Afghanistan continues to ignore these problems. Due to the continuous ignorance of these problems, the literacy rate in Afghanistan is among the lowest in the world. We should do our best to help in any way we can. The women in Afghanistan are sisters in humanity, and for some, they are sisters in faith. The Afghan government tries to cover their evil motives by using religion. But I would like to end this with something that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said. Seeking knowledge is obligatory upon every Muslim, whether it be man or woman.
A newcomer or immigrant student to the United States of America made that film. These are our new Americans. And I want to thank you, our young students from Ignacio Valley High School, for being part of our Women Forward International Internship Program, and for not being afraid to express words in English from your hearts as you reach out to the young people just like you living in Afghanistan. It is my honor to welcome you all today to a new horizon for Afghan women, a presentation by our teams of students from Georgetown and Lynn universities, who Women Forward has partnered with activists, entrepreneurs, and nonprofit leaders in Afghanistan to find innovative, out-of-the-box solutions Women Forward then implements in collaboration with our partners through our funding support. We seek to empower our next generation to bring about real change in the here and now. I want to thank the distinguished faculty who support this cutting-edge work from their students. At Georgetown, Ambassador Milan Verveer, their professor, Professor Aisha Kadeyevsi Orellana. At Lynn University, Professor Antonella Riguero, Professor Brittany Kaiser, and Professor Valeria Fabi. One of Women Forward International's trademarks is to bring artists to our political science discussions because the arts open the door to the knowing of the heart, and it is high time that we act on that most intelligent and powerful force, love itself. I thank our donors and supporters for enabling this work, especially the Doris M. Carter Foundation. And with that, I pass the mic to my colleague, Wesley Spencer, WFI's Director of Arts Partnerships.
Hello, everyone. The French novelist Marcel Proust stated, "By art alone, we are able to get outside ourselves, to know what another sees of this universe, which for him is not ours, the landscapes of which would remain as unknown to us as those of the moon." I believe this truth is revealed in the work of today's guest artist, Zuhal Faridon. Daughter of Afghanistan, though miles away from her homeland, through her art and story, we see her deep love and truest hope for a better tomorrow. Zuhal, it is my honor to turn the floor over to you. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Kent. Thank you, Wesley Spencer, and the WFI team for putting this event together. Today, I will be showing you some paintings from 2 series of work. On each slide, I'm going to have some examples from each one of those series. So I'll go ahead and share my screen. The works of art that you're seeing here are inspired by the strength of Afghan women. The titles and information about the works are written on the slides. So before speaking, I'm going to incorporate short pauses to give you an opportunity to observe. Afghan women are resilient and strong. They fight for a better tomorrow, despite the obstacles and disparity of support. Women in Afghanistan protest the current conditions, knowing the risk, facing the danger, disregarding fear for a greater feminist cause. But why is the burden solely placed on the most vulnerable? Being on the outside provides the safety to speak up, object, and act against the violation of human rights happening today. It's the duty of a member of a common humanity, a global community, to join in the protest and be an ally to Afghan women. We all have to join in the fight for women's rights and the upholding of human rights. In this case, we have a responsibility to Afghan women and girls, because silence is dangerous. Silence leads to a normalization, and starvation is not normal. How can there be a positive contribution towards alleviating the hunger crisis in Afghanistan? Employment opportunities for Afghan women not only provide the necessary agency that's required, but also make a contribution towards families being fed. It is not normal for little hopeful girls to make way to their school gates, having faith that their prayers have been answered and they get to receive the education assured, and then being turned away by the Taliban. It has been 217 days that Afghan girls haven't gone to school. This cannot be normalized. Education, leadership, safety, employment are a need and a want for Afghan women. It is necessary to do everything in our power as individuals, as collectives, to make way for that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Zuhal. That was really beautiful, and I know our audience may have some questions, and I'd like to now pass the mic to my colleague, Dania Abdullah, Women Forward International's Program Officer. Dania?
Hello, everyone. It's such a pleasure to have you all here. And now I want to turn to the first of our student presentations. And these are the next generation of leaders that are making their research matter. I'd like to now present the Georgetown team, led by Professor Aisha Kadaifchi Oriana, whose research melds women's rights in Islam with key women, peace, and security indicators to evaluate women's rights in Afghanistan and beyond. Georgetown team, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon. My name is Jordan Iger. I'm a graduate research assistant at Georgetown. This project builds on last year's Georgetown Research Initiative, a toolkit for negotiation for women's rights and freedoms in Afghanistan. and also the Women, Peace and Security Index published by GWIPS most recently in 2021. Our research this year is essentially a discussion of how the Women, Peace and Security Index indicators, categorized into security, justice, and inclusion, apply to Afghanistan. We examine what each indicator looks like in Afghanistan, the Islamic perspective on each indicator, and how the situation has changed after August 15th, and we draw policy recommendations from best practices in other Muslim countries. This project is especially timely. Our work began the month after Kabul fell. As the ongoing pandemic exacerbates both the financial crisis and the worsening conditions for women, we hope that our research provides perspective from which Afghanistan can model improvements in quality of life for women while maintaining its commitment to Islamic principles. Let's get started with security. Within security, we examined intimate partner violence, community safety, and organized violence. In terms of IPV, rates have always been high in Afghanistan due to cultural norms of women representing her family's honor, the practice of bad or giving a bride to settle disputes, and economic pressures. President Karzai passed the Violence Against Women Act, but enforcement has been spotty, in part because of the clash between top-level letter of the law and the previously mentioned bottom-up norms. In terms of community safety, perceptions of personal safety have worsened over the years for both women and men, owing in part to fluctuations in perceptions of the Afghan military and police capabilities to protect people from crime. The revived Ministry for the Protection of Virtue and Prevention of Vice has become much more involved in policing women's ability to travel, ostensibly for reasons related to personal safety. In terms of organized violence, in the past, the threat largely came from the Taliban, who harassed women and men also for violating dress codes and such, as well as targeted ethnic minorities. After August 15th, different threats arose, including ISIS-K scuffles with the Taliban. I came up with some recommendations drawn from best practices in the Muslim world, for example, establishing anonymous reporting mechanisms for IPV and improving recruitment of women in security and police forces. These can be discussed further in Q&A. Thank you.
Thank you, Jordan. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Zara Wakilzada. I am a junior at the School of Foreign Service studying international politics and women's and gender studies. My part of the research was focused on justice. So the justice section will go beyond the Georgetown Institute of Women, Peace and Security report finding. In order to examine the legal discrimination of women in marriage, discriminatory work norms, and social and cultural aspect of span bias. It will also include a set of recommendations as well as Islamic perspective on these issues. Indicator 1 under justice was legal discrimination in marriage and divorce. Since the Taliban takeover, there has been an increase in poverty, inflation, and high prices of basic needs, in addition to major displacement, which has contributed to an increase in women and girls' vulnerability to violence, including increased rates in child marriage due to economic insecurity. Some of the recommendations that I wrote about was child marriage, specifically the children under the age of 18 should be illegal. Shelters, specifically the shelters that were destroyed due to the takeover, should be rebuilt for women who aim to escape abuse and violence and child marriage. The second indicator under justice was son bias. At times, sons are expected to work outside the house while girls are expected to stay at home and learn the basic housewife chores in some households. This means the deprivation of women from becoming financially independent. In order to promote equal treatment of girls and boys, the government should legally prevent discrimination on the basis of sex in the society and at home, and through educational workshops ensure that sons and daughters are equally valued. Indicator 3 was discriminatory work norms. While the Taliban have told female government employees in Kabul to not come to work, there has been a specific order that allows only women whose jobs cannot be done by men to come to work. So according to an announcement, among the very few jobs available right now for women is cleaning the public bathrooms. The financial independency of women in Afghanistan, where war has killed many men in the family, is pivotal to women for women in order to survive and be able to feed themselves and their families while promoting intellectual, economic, and social growth. In addition to access to education, women across from Afghanistan should have access to governmental and non-governmental jobs where they can feel safe, welcomed, and generate money to be a part of the society. And I'm going to pass it down to Huda now. Thank you.
Thank you, Zahra. My name is Huda and I'm a graduate research assistant at Georgetown. Uh, my side of the report, I looked at the inclusion indicator with four sub indicators: education, employment, financial inclusion, and parliamentary representation. With education, enrollment are low for women and girls, and with the Taliban takeover, it has became even lower. Challenges that are women and girls face include safety, transportation, shortage of female teachers. And then when it comes to employment, also women's employment rates are low, and because they face certain issues like, again, transportation and safety, and also Taliban's limit on what professions women are allowed to work in. And then within financial inclusions, there are many barriers to financial inclusion for women that include lack of access to financial resources, lack of financial education and training. And with Taliban takeover, also there are more restriction on women ability to be in the banking sector, or women face discrimination within banks for getting loans. And with parliamentary representation, before the Taliban take over, women were around 27% representation in the government. But since the Taliban took over, women were not allowed to be within the government, and the women who worked before then were not called back. Within this section, then, recommendations included ways to increase safety and accessibility to schools, and looking at how to increase employment opportunities for women, and with financial inclusion, looking at how to conduct workshops, but also increase access to micro grants. And then with parliamentary representation, also looking ways into applying pressure, or to have women, Taliban include women in their government. And with that, we wanted to kind of conclude our presentation with a quote from an Afghan singer that says, "Afghan women are no longer in cages. We will hold our heads high and continue to fight for our rights and dignity." And this is a reminder that our Afghan women are the ones on the field who are fighting for their rights. They are the one who every day wake up and push through against the struggle. Afghan women are the one who are in control of their own voice. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much to the Georgetown team for your excellent analysis and recommendations during this very challenging time for Afghan women and girls and Afghanistan. Here with us today is Masouda Sultan, born in Kandahar, Afghanistan, raised in New York City, and returned to Afghanistan in 2001, just before the fall of the Taliban. She is founder of All in Peace and Women for Afghan Women, the largest women's organization in Afghanistan. In 2008, she was appointed as advisor to the Ministry of Finance in Afghanistan. Her memoir, My War at Home, was published by Simon & Schuster in 2006. Masouda, what are your thoughts on the presentation and the situation in Afghanistan today for women and girls?
Thank you. First of all, I want to say I'm thrilled to be with you all today, and thank you especially to Professor Kent Davis-Packard and your entire team for everything you've been doing for Afghan women and for your support and unwavering commitment to dialogue. You've brought together such a stellar group of people from one of our most revered Afghan women leaders, Dr. Sakina Yacoubi, who's been a longtime champion of education, to one of my favorite American women leaders, Heidi Kuhn, whose work has been about the best of American values, values of connection to each other and to earth, of generosity and kindness. And I want you to know that I know that they've made such a powerful impact their work has had in Afghanistan. And I'm truly humbled to be here among such giants, incredible women. So I'm Masouda Sultan. I'm an entrepreneur and a women's rights activist. I have left the women's NGO that I co-founded 21 years ago to start an initiative called Unfreeze Afghanistan, which is about unfreezing the aid and the assets of Afghanistan, including the central bank assets, which are currently not accessible to Afghanistan. For me, growing up in a conservative Afghan household in America in a conservative community, and then later traveling to Afghanistan and living there as an adult, this fact has been confirmed that we need to make the case for women's rights in our community from within the culture and from within Islam. Pointing out what others could do or couldn't do or should do or shouldn't do never really worked because they weren't Afghan and they weren't Muslim. So we looked for examples of women that we could look up to, and we were looking for role models. And there's so many more now that the internet exists and we could find them. But we at the time really looked at historical examples. And one of the most powerful examples was Khadija, the Prophet Muhammad's wife, may peace be upon him and her. She was a successful merchant who ran caravans and who the Prophet had worked for. She was impressed with his business acumen and his honesty, and she later married him. She was the first convert to Islam. Khadija's life can't be denied by anyone, and yet the example is not used enough. The fact and the power is this: she had this major role in business in her time. It means that women's rights to conduct commerce freely was cemented in Islam. From the first steps, women were bosses. Now, I'm not an expert, and I don't know, I know it's not always easy or smooth sailing with this approach, but there are many other examples in texts that can be utilized. And of course, interpretation and historical context matters. We hear over and over again that Islam was progressive for its time. Women scholars have done a lot of work in the past few years on this subject, including the Islamic Governance and Women's Rights Toolkit developed by Professor Aisha of Georgetown University, and Women Forward is one of these works. I found the toolkit to be extremely well written and still relevant as Afghan women negotiate their place in a new environment with the takeover by the Taliban. I've been working with Afghan women and children for the past 21 years, supporting vulnerable women in shelters, working on education and vocational training programs for them, as well as working on programs integrating men from prison. I became informally involved in a meeting with the Taliban. I say this because I was never invited. I had to find my way in because of necessity. We needed to work to get Afghan women into the talks. And as a board member at the time of one of Afghanistan's largest women's organizations, I, along with others on the board, were responsible for 1,200 people, men and women, staff. And more importantly, the vulnerable women that were under our care and the children. And they had been in the shelters because they were fleeing violence and war and abuse. So what we were afraid of is the misperceptions people may have about who they were, especially being, funded by an American NGO, especially being in shelters that people were labeling as brothels on the ground. And this is not just the Taliban, this is other Afghans that were calling these shelters brothels. And it may sound crazy to us, but in an environment of war, misperceptions like this can cost you your life. We were told that it was just a matter of time, that everyone's heads would be chopped off. Luckily, that did not happen. Engagements have been challenging. I'm convinced that a lot has unfortunately remained unexplored that could have happened through dialogue that was not happening. Dialogue that must happen now because Afghan people's survival depends on it, and the stability of that country and the region does. And it was in that spirit that I traveled last month back to Afghanistan. And I will ask Lori and the team at Women Forward International if you could start rolling the photos. This was a trip that I just took with the American Women's Peace and Education Delegation, a group of American NGO leaders, women who have been doing work in Afghanistan for 15, 20, 25 years themselves. American women leaders who believe in dialogue. We understand this was the first American civil society delegation to visit Afghanistan since the withdrawal of US troops and the change of government. It was also an interfaith delegation comprised of Muslims, Christians, Jews, a Hindu, and even an atheist. During the trip, we visited local NGOs, including Dr. Sakina Yakubi's AIL, a clinic, an orphanage, a shelter, and schools. We met with various local leaders and advocated for expanding education for all girls, for additional humanitarian dollars to be made available. We met with the Ministry of Education to talk about the issue of the high schools for girls, sorry, which had not been opened yet. And which we were promised would be. Now we don't know when, and everybody keeps asking, including us. We said, when will this happen? We were being told that there's some consultations happening and that they did not want to move ahead without a consensus on this. We also learned that a lot of members of the Taliban really want these schools to be reopened right away. And the Ministry of Education told us they are ready as soon as they get the order from the Emir. They wanted their own daughters to be able to go to school as well. We, by chance, attended a graduation ceremony for university graduates of a medical program, recently graduated doctors who were worried about their work prospects because of the economic catastrophe. Everywhere we went, we advocated for women's full inclusion. And we learned the impact of the economic catastrophe. Excuse me. We learned the impact of the economic catastrophe on women's lives, which is something we can't neglect. You know, we advocate for women's rights with the Taliban, but we also advocate for women's lives. And women's lives in Afghanistan are in peril, and they continue to be in peril. I'm not saying this is easy. I know there's a lot of problems, and the Taliban have rolled back women's rights in many ways, from the decision to require a mahram for 45 miles or more of travel, to women in government for many positions being at home, being told that they're being paid, but waiting to go back to work. We want women included in senior levels of government across the board. We're going to advocate for all of the things that women deserve, which is equality. But we're going to do it through dialogue, and we're going to do it through understanding, and we're going to do it through the way that women do it, which is through compassion and understanding. And I've seen incredible changes happen in communities because of women who stepped up and convinced other people that something was the right thing to do. And I believe the women of Afghanistan are in a position to negotiate their rights with the Taliban. As hard as that may sound, and as hard as that may be, they've had 20 years of progress with education and life. I mean, the world was very different 20 years ago. Afghanistan was very different 20 years ago. And I think there's a continued opportunity for dialogue, and that's why I'm here, and that's why I believe in what Women Forward International and you all are doing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Masuda, for that. Your courage and tenacity and your activism is incredible and really just an inspiration to us all. And now I would like to welcome the Lynn team, which is led by a group of wonderful professors, Dr. Antonella Ruggiero, Dr. Brittany Kaiser, and Dr. Valeria Fabi, whose research is a continuation of last year's efforts to build the framework for a virtual women's university in Afghanistan. Lynn team, the floor is yours.
Afghanistan is facing one of the world's worst humanitarian crises. According to the United Nations, 97% of Afghans could now fall under the poverty threshold, with millions facing severe food insecurity. Over 20 million people are in need of humanitarian aid, and women are in search of justice. Through education, employment, inclusion, and representation, women can once again begin to make strides towards claiming the rights they deserve. Afghan women continue to face discrimination in their communities and are subjected to unequal treatment. Justice is needed to establish women's rights, but it is also critical to ensuring the economic, social, and political development of societies. With the rise of the Taliban, decades of progress that Afghanistan had made in terms of women's rights and education for females was cast aside. There was outrage and protests as women took to the streets to stand up for the right to an education. With the Taliban returning to power and seeking to confine Afghan women to the home once again, women have come together to fight back despite the dangers this poses. These women are determined and resilient and refuse to back down. They want to learn, gain an education, and the opportunity to build a career. They want equal rights. We must help in this fight and stand alongside the women who need our support now more than ever. It is up to each and every one of us to do our part and make an impact.
Good afternoon, all. My name is Danny Lotzi, and I am joined by my fellow team members, Celia Lawrence and Katie Rodriguez. We are here today as the research team from Lynn University in Boca Raton, Florida, in collaboration with the Social Impact Lab and the Afghan Institute of Learning, founded by the incredible Dr. Sakini Akubi. The video you just watched features excerpts from our research paper alongside Georgetown's, with visuals provided by AIL, and the beautiful sound of the rubab in the background, one of Afghanistan's national musical instruments. Without further ado, I'll pass you on to Celia.
Thank you very much, Danny, for that introduction. And we begin our presentation of our report by sharing this quote by Malala Yousafzai. "I speak not for myself, but for those without a voice. So without a voice can be heard. Those who fought for their rights to live in peace, their rights to be treated, their right to equality of opportunity, their right to be educated." Now we share the purpose of our project, as you see in the name of our presentation, A New Horizon for the Women of Afghanistan, and as you see depicted here in this picture. It's to establish an all-women's university where a new horizon will be created for the women of Afghanistan, where they may be afforded an equal opportunity to advance themselves out of poverty and out of oppression. This year's research focuses on uncovering the most effective way to deliver the curriculum explored in year one. In order to gain a better understanding of the current climate in Afghanistan, the research team conducted a thorough literature review researching specific themes. These included the barriers that exist for women's education in Afghanistan, the current educational options for women, and the advantages of asynchronous versus synchronous instruction. Over 20 pieces of literature ranging from news articles, journals, scholarly reports, and questionnaires completed by the Afghanistan Institute of Learning were collected and analyzed. The research team conducted a content analysis and concluded that although cultural and systemic beliefs play a role in hindering women's education in Afghanistan, the Taliban is the greatest barrier to overcome. Contrary to propaganda recently shared by the organization, the Taliban has mandated restrictions that challenge women's right to an education. Additionally, due to the unreliable infrastructure in Afghanistan, the student team concluded that face-to-face communication is the most effective way for students and instructors to collaborate, and a hybrid model of teaching and learning is the most effective instructional model to implement given the uncertainty of the political climate. This means that students would report to a private building equipped with a strong internet connection and reliable alternative energy sources that would mitigate local power outages. While in the building, students can interact with instructional content using traditional textbooks, live lectures, or access previously recorded video lessons. In order to provide the most realistic proposals, the research team provided a list of recommendations to ensure successful implementation. These include the consideration of electronic devices for students and instructors' use. The team provided an estimated, in quotes, product details for Chromebooks, iPads, and laptops, as well as information for learning management systems such as Blackboards, Canvas, and Google Classroom. A brief instructional professional development proposal was also included in the recommendation section to ensure that all instructors are trained to be able to utilize the technology as a powerful instructional tool. Lastly, the team included resources for additional funding options, which Katie will present.
Thank you, Celia, for that excellent analysis of the research. So I think it's fair to say that we all want this project to be put into action. And in order for this project to truly come to fruition, the Lynn University research team decided that we needed to find funding. So in collaboration with the Lynn University Social Impact Lab, we compiled a list of potential funding opportunities using Lynn's information funding network. So this database gave us access to over 144,000 foundations, and it allowed us to filter the results to make sure that they could be applied to this project. So we found a list that we thought would be applicable, and we organized them into potential categories. So the first one we have is education-based grants, women's rights-based grants, and then the other one is just other that we might find applicable. The hope for this part of the research is that next year's team who continues working on this project will already have the resources to find funding and help us bring education to the women of Afghanistan. Thank you.
With that, we'd like to close out our presentation by including a quote by Michelle Obama that no country can ever truly flourish if it stifles the potential of its women and deprives itself of the contributions of half of its citizens. On behalf of my classmates, my teammates, Danny, Katie, and I, we'd like to sincerely thank our faculty advisors, first and foremost, Dr. Reguero, Dr. Fabi, and Dr. Kaiser, as well as Women Forward International and the Afghanistan Institute of Learning for giving us this opportunity to join this beautiful project that we hope continues. We wholeheartedly believe that women's rights are human rights. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much to the Lynn team for both practical and visionary recommendations for the Afghan Institute of Learning and all educators in Afghanistan and outside of Afghanistan as well. Before I introduce Dr. Sakina Yakubi, I would like to remind the audience out there that you can put questions in the Q&A box on your screen, and we will hope to answer those at the end. And now I'm going to introduce Dr. Sakina Yakubi, CEO of the Afghan Institute of Learning, an organization she founded in 1995 in response to the lack of education and healthcare for the Afghan people. She's also the co-founder and president of Creating Hope International and is a member of the U.S. Afghan Women's Council. Dr. Yakubi has established 4 schools, a hospital, and a radio station in Afghanistan. Among her many honors, she was nominated as one of 1,000 women for the Nobel Peace Prize. Dr. Yakubi, the floor is yours. And I think you're on mute, Dr. Yakubi.
Okay. Little. Sure. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. It is a great honor to be here today, and I am so proud to be in presence of Women Forward International and also Lynn University. I think that this is something that we all are hoping that to achieve, especially in area of educated women in higher education. And I think that, yes, we do have a lot of women have been educated during the past 20 years. And I don't need to go into detail about Afghanistan situation because already our colleagues all talk about it, and especially the Lynn University did a very excellent research and with cooperation and coordination with the Afghan Institute of Learning research team. I think the background was all sufficient for all of us, and we all know what's going on in Afghanistan. So what we are going to do and why we need this university. I think that one of the reasons that, as Masouda Sultan said, and we all know that Afghanistan is a traditional country. People are Muslim, they have been Muslim all their life, and it's not that Islam started today or yesterday. But how we are going to go about educating our people, how we are going to go to provide a high quality education for them without interruption. Yes, today we have challenges, we have barriers today, but are we going to sit down and we just hold our hand and we wait, or we are going to keep talking about it and not doing anything? While we are doing our active work, our as a activist work, I believe personally that there are a lot of means of how to get our way around and continuously provide education for women. And one of those reasons that I think, and with Lenin University and with Afghan Institute of University and with Women Forward International, that the best way to do it is to provide a women university. Do we have a women university in Afghanistan? No. Is there one? Yes. What kind is it? I am sorry to say it, I don't believe in that kind of education. I really believe that if we are going to make the effort and make these women to come out of their house under these challenges, then we are responsible to give them the highest quality education that they deserve, give them the high opportunity that they deserve, give them the very best security that they deserve, give them the best human resource that they deserve. It means that we have best classroom, we have best teacher, we have best material, we have best coordination with different universities around the world, but through the distance education. To do that, it is not an easy task, as Lenin University and Afghan Institute of Learning so far have been doing the research part in finding out. It's a lot of challenges going to be on our way, especially financially. But are we be able to get this solution solved? Yes, if we are all understand that the women of Afghanistan, the girls of Afghanistan need to be educated. They need education. They can go to work, but if they have quality education, they can provide work service if they have a quality education. For example, I want to tell you, there are many women who are working in Afghanistan. To tell you the truth, some of them were not qualified. And that's the reason that we still do not have a country that we wanted to run. For 20 years, some of those women, just they got a degree from here to there by their hand or by their money or by knowing who they know. We don't want to do that. We do not want to do that. We want to have a university that people deserve the degree that they get and they stand up on their own and they will be able to speak out with their knowledge and their thinking and with their quality skill. If they are going to be a leader, if they are going to be a doctor, if they are going to be engineer, then we don't have to look for somebody else to come and then train them and give them this because they didn't learn that in the classroom. So my point is that is we are all about, and we are doing this university because of that. And I really think that Lenin University and Women Forward International and Afghan Institute of Learning need the support of all Afghan inside the country and outside the country. We are able to negotiate with the Taliban. We have our program already open. Our program was closed only for 2 weeks, the first month of August. After that, we have 361 women learning centers, all are open. Every one of them are open, and every one of them, from 400 people to 15 to 2,000 people are working through a cycle. So it means that our women never stop. As a matter of fact, we expand program in our women's center. Why? Because the high school was closed. All the public school girls pour into the women's center. Automatically, I'm an entrepreneur. We thought about it and we shift the curriculum. As we are right now working with the same kind of a changing curriculum with the Lenin University. We shift the curriculum from the Women Learning Center to the high school. And so that the students who want to go to school, who don't want to sit in their home and just cry, they want to come and to learn. We have opportunity for them that they can come and learn. And because of that, we open our Women Learning Center door to all our high school students. Are we able to police every one of them? No. What we do as much as we could. So that is one thing. And so we learn how to work with the Taliban. I mean that, well, are we going to be like this or like that? I'm not going to talk to it about it. But I think that communication and understanding the culture and understanding the religion and understanding how to work with these people to be able to get your focus, your objective, which is our objective is education. We cannot wait. Education cannot wait. Education must be implemented as day by day as we are going. And we must educate our women because our women makes a difference. Our women are the change agents. Our women are the one who is going to bring a difference in Afghanistan. Our women are the one who is going to bring peace. We do not need to fight. We need love, compassion, and wisdom. Through that method and through a quality education, I think peace will come to Afghanistan. If we provide quality, if we don't provide quality and we keep talking from this politician to that politician and being behind this chair or that chair, it's not going to work. I just tell you, it's not going to work. And we are fooling ourselves. But let's be realistic and work very hard and see what we can do. And again, I congratulate Women Forward International because you really got the objective set. The objective set means that you work with Georgetown University, understanding the issue of tradition in Islam, and working with Lynn University, trying to provide research how we are facing challenge, and providing with Afghan Institute of Learning, which is a quality education for 31 years. We have proven that we train 39,000 in a methodology that it is excellent methodology that is replicated all over the world. So my point is that is we are all in here, and I do not want to talk any more because I really feel that there must be some question to answer, and I ask audience to ask a question, and if I can answer or anybody else answer, it would be wonderful because that is another way that we can learn from each other, and we are here to learn from each other. We are not here to say we are perfect, and that's the reason the research team is so necessary. I want to thank Dr. Antonello, especially that she and her team are doing very good job in trying to really reach out all the barriers, all the challenges, and see how we can work that we implement this university. Thank you very much from all of you, especially Women Forward International. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Dr. Yacobi, for all of the incredible work you have done for your country and for exemplifying walking the talk and encouraging us all to do that, especially today with these incredible presentations from our students who are going to go out into the world and have this experience and be able to put it into action. So thank you so much, Dr. Yacobi. We will now turn to our Q&A session. First, I'd like to give a special welcome to a special guest with us, another special guest, Heidi Kuhn, the CEO of Roots of Peace, who will share a few reflections on today's presentation, given her years of experience working in Afghanistan and what we have accomplished together as women. Heidi, I'll turn the floor to you. Oh, I think you're on mute, Heidi.
Dr. Kent Davis Packard, Masuda, Sakina, Georgetown University, and Lynn University, I thank you so much for this great honor of addressing you as women. For in the 1970s, I was a student at the University of California at Berkeley in the late 1970s and received a degree in political economics of industrial societies. I took my education forward to Afghanistan with the power of love. I salute you for bringing that word forward in a world where hate is prevalent. And I would like to begin my remarks by quoting Mahatma Gandhi. For the day the power of love overrules the love of power, the world will know peace. I believe that today, at this moment, with Women Forward International, we may deliver as women upon this proverb by Gandhi. We must take footsteps forward for peace on behalf of the women of Afghanistan And I would like to say thank you to my Afghan women staff who are working in Afghanistan today and joining us on this call from Kabul, from Kandahar, from Herat, from all corners of Afghanistan. Roots of Peace began 25 years ago with a vision of turning mines to vines, replacing the scourge of landmines with bountiful vineyards and orchards worldwide. By removing a landmine and planting a grapevine, it is an act of peace. There are 60 million landmines in 60 countries around the world, and the most heavily mined country in the world is Afghanistan. Now, the beautiful films that the students have inspired me so much today shows 97% potential starvation. Afghanistan, conversely, is a country 80% dependent upon agriculture for jobs. So as we release the land that was held hostage by landmines, we may actively plant and educate the farmers in the rural communities to grow high-value crops for export and trade. Since we began our work in Afghanistan shortly after 9/11 attacks, Roots of Peace has removed hundreds of thousands of landmines, UXOs, and cluster munitions north of Kabul in the Shamali Plains, and not only planted grapevines, but pomegranates in Kandahar, apples, apricots in Ghazni, Wardak, Logar, beautiful Sakina, the beautiful saffron from Herat, and cherries in Badakhshan. It's a country where peace grows through agriculture, sustainable agriculture. 6 million trees have been planted. And prior to the Taliban takeover and the OFAC laws, Roots of Peace, with funding from USAID and US government, US Department of State, International Narcotics and Law Enforcement, INL, helped take the agricultural exports from $250 million in 2014 to over $1.4 billion, moving these fresh fruits across contentious borders, selling them into new markets. Ladies, this is the business of peace. This is the economics of peace. And we need to take bold footsteps for peace with grace and with love and respect for men and women around the world. As we speak today, we know landmines are being actively laid in Ukraine. And I think what we can show as an example in Afghanistan is truly profound by the leadership, again, of Dr. Kent Davis Packard, of leading with love. Mother's Day is a week from Sunday. What are we going to do, ladies? If we're not mothers, maybe we're aunties. I have 4 children. I have 6 grandchildren. I will do anything I can to work with you in collaboration and cooperation, never competition. We don't get far as women when we compete with one another. It is through collaboration and cooperation. I was at my alma mater just last week. I met with Carol Christ, who is the chancellor of the university. Speaker Nancy Pelosi was in dialogue with former Senator Barbara Boxer. They were talking about solutions for peace. How do we link these incredible conversations? I'm happy to go to my alma mater if Georgetown and Lynn wants to have a university from the left coast to the west coast. This is San Francisco. It's a city of peace. It's the city of love. And I think together, leading as women, we can do something far beyond any one of ourselves. This year, again, marks the 25th anniversary of Roots of Peace. And like Sakina, when the Taliban took over on August 15th, we had one day we closed as Roots of Peace, one day, because we had a harvest to be found, a harvest of hope. The fruits were ripe in the fields. Nature does not wait for peace treaties to be signed. And informal meetings with the new regime allowed, not as a woman, but as a mother, to help bring these fresh fruits across borders within Afghanistan, within respect to the OFAC laws, but to feed the farmers and the families. We hold no flag, we feed the farmers. And this is a time where we have to use this spring to plant the seeds of love, the seeds of peace, the agricultural peace through agriculture that may flourish. My nails are Ukrainian colors. I just saw them on the yeah, I carry a flag for all countries, ladies. But most importantly, really Afghanistan right now. I would like to say thank you to the women leaders. I will not say their names for security reasons. Roots to Peace today employs 407 Afghans in Afghanistan. I, as CEO, manage $75 million under contract. I'd like to say thank you to the US government for believing in a woman, in a vision. And it's been tough. It's been tough, but we have proven the return on the investment. 1.1 million fruit trees have been planted this spring. 1.1 million fruit trees all over Afghanistan.
It's amazing. I appreciate all of your incredible, just demonstrating this transformative power of love and collaboration, and for being here today with us. This transformative power of love, which we are learning as a humanity, is the only way forward, and that which makes what has seemed impossible in the past possible today. Now, Dania will be leading a very brief Q&A session. We have 3 minutes. We've got 2 questions. I'd like to see if we can try to answer those, and then we'll close. So Dania, over to you. And thank you again, Heidi.
Wonderful. So our first question is from Mary Aguirre. And she says, of course, education is essential. However, if women are not allowed to work, what has been analyzed regarding what women can do with that education? Will the education programs be tailored to health and education sectors? Dr. Yakubi, would you like to?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's good. That's a good question. I know this question will come. Yes, education is needed and we are focusing on education. But remember, a woman can work in an office, any office, do any job. If they are not educated, how they are going to work? The work is required because you are educated. As Heidi said, she is educated. She has economic degree or political degree. Because she got those degrees, she are able to do millions and billions of dollars of work. A woman who wants to really be successful in her job, she needs higher education. That's one. Second thing, yes, women right now is working in Afghanistan. We have 8 clinics. We just recently opened 5 health centers. Just recently, we opened 3 other clinics because 260 clinics are closed and the children are dying, the mother are dying, people are not having no service. And you know what? Under this condition, with negotiation, we hire all women to go as a doctor, as a nurses, as a vaccinator. And that was accepted. And they are working with 8 clinics and 5 centers, the health center, all of them are women. For 361 centers that we have, do you know we have 1,200 women who are working right now? Right now, they are on their job. So, yes, we have a big challenge. Yes, women are not going as they were going to work before. First of all, as Masouda said, Taliban are saying that they are going to open a school. They are going to open, allow the women to work. We are hoping that they do. If we show coordination, love, wisdom, and not hatred, possibly things will work. Possibly things will work. Why don't we focus on that issue? Be positive instead of being negative. I know, you know, and I know what's going on inside Afghanistan. It's not that I'm closing my eyes, but at the same time, always, during the time that Taliban was working in Afghanistan 20 years ago, we worked underground. We had 3,000 students. We had 80 schools. Today we are working. So I want you to know that our orphanage, our women learning center, our clinics, our 4 private schools, all is open. As a matter of fact, example was that all those slides that you see from by Masouda, it was all from Yael. They are all women. So it's not that I'm talking just from the top of my head. I am talking with you with facts. Yes, all the women are going. Anyway, during the 20 years, you didn't have in every village school. You didn't have a high school. So don't, again, we fool ourselves that everybody was going to school. We're talking about 99% of the people of Afghanistan, 95% are poor, they don't have food. They don't have food. How they could afford to have an education? That's one thing. Second thing, those people didn't have an opportunity to go to school because we were so much busy fighting politics that we didn't have time to provide for those people schooling. So when I talk or you talk, we are talking from our full stomach. I'm sorry. Yes. I'm sorry. We need education to provide economical status for people. People are tired in Afghanistan. People are sick. People are poor. 25 million people are starving. 25 million. EIL is providing food distribution every month, twice a month, for thousands of people. 5 million children are malnourished. They are dying. So we need to work. We need to do, no matter what is going on, we have to keep doing what we are doing to reach out for those people, because people of Afghanistan are in trouble. People of Afghanistan are in trouble. Women, children, men, everybody, everyone. So that's
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you. No, this is exactly why we're here. Thank you. I think we have one more question. We'll try to sneak that one in, and one if someone can answer in a minute. I think it's doable. Dania, back over to you.
Absolutely. So we have a question from Ellis Pines, and he says, recent articles have said that the serious plight of Ukraine refugees may draw away much needed attention from Afghanistan citizens and refugees. What do our panelists think about balancing this situation? Heidi, I'd like to see if you want to take this question. I know you mentioned, you talked about your support of Ukraine and you've spoken about your support of Afghanistan. So I'm curious if you'd like to take that.
Well, you know, it's a small coincidence because Dr. Jacobi and I were actually teenagers when we met, and we were both seeking an education. My first year was at the University of the Pacific. And so, Dr. Jacobi, I believe in the words that you said. We need to approach this in a positive way. We need to look for opportunities and pathways forward. Let's use the plight and suffering of Ukraine and the refugees going across borders to bring back the light and remind the world that we have lost our focus. We follow the most recent catastrophe, but we need to ground it like lightning in Afghanistan. And I think as mothers, as women, let's do something together. I offer whatever we can do on the West Coast. I'll be seeing Kent at our event on the 4th of May. Let's make an announcement together. Let's call forth the women, the mothers of the world, Ukraine and Afghanistan and Vietnam and the world, to get behind this incredible initiative. I think this is a historical day. Again, the power of love overcoming the love of power is the day today that the world will know peace.
Thank you, Heidi. Thank you to all of our speakers, Georgetown and Lynn University students and faculty, and to our wider audience. Today, we took a necessary step, and that was to come together as one community to ensure Afghan women, and through them, all women, are treated as they should be. We are all one human family, and in that spirit, we'll close with the newcomer students who send their messages of encouragement and love to the youth of Afghanistan from Ignacio Valley High School in California. Thank you.
Dear girls of Afghanistan, it's sad that anyone can be stopped from going to school, especially you guys. We understand the value of education and knowledge. Education is for everyone, not just boys, not just girls. The situation in our country is very bad and needs to change. We want you, our brothers and sisters in Afghanistan, to remember, don't worry if you're not going to school. It's okay if you're in a bad situation. We believe God will take care of you and that your good days are coming, your dreams are coming. We will pray for all of you who want to go to school and are feeling helpless. We support you.
Estamos con ustedes.
Мы поддерживаем вас.